new year of art literacy. I think it's going to be really great. We've got a lot of really exciting artists, and it's fun that this month and next month we're kind of starting out with really big personality artists, which always makes it fun to teach and fun for the kids. So this month is Frida Kahlo, and she is one of my favorite artists. Her paintings are amazing. She definitely painted with her heart, and I love that. We'll see that in our self-portraits, and it's kind of fun to be able to bring a new dimension in for the kids. So we'll talk about how to do a well-proportioned self-portrait in this lesson, but then also kind of show them that self-portraits are more than just trying to get a photo likeness of a person. So a quick history on her. I know you've got this information. For you newer parents, these videos, I kind of feel dorky doing them, but it seems like it helps so that you can kind of have a feel for how the lesson goes. So feel free to skip ahead if it's annoying to watch me do it all. Yeah, I totally won't feel bad about that. But this way you can kind of see how I would teach the lesson, and then you can take that and do what you want to do in the classroom. And this month I'm working under a little bit of a crunch for October. So I don't have our pictures laminated yet, but they'll be laminated for you to use. They're a little floppy today. So here is a picture of Frida Kahlo. She was born in 1907 in Mexico City. And one thing that I love about Mexico is they really celebrate their artists, their celebrities. So even now, her home is a Frida Kahlo museum. It's called the Blue House in Mexico City. And if you look up, you'll find there are several. Actually, there's a great documentary on Netflix right now. There have been a few movies about her life. She was an amazing character. A lot of information that maybe is a little bit above the kids' heads, but what a woman, what a person. So here is a portrait of herself, of her painting, but then also out of her works, oh shoot, I should have put this in our information, but out of around 160 paintings that she did that are publicly available, about 56 or 57 of those are self-portraits. She was really an artist who did a lot of self-portraits, and that was partially because she had a really difficult childhood. She spent a lot of time in bed. She said, I painted the subject that I know best. So when she was born, when she was only 3, the Mexican Revolution began. And she has written in her journal about being able to hear gunfire, her mother ushering them in to the sounds of gunfire in the street. And then even just growing up in her home, there's lots of recorded history about her mother just being kind of horrible, a really domineering woman who kept her daughters down. Frida was one of 3 daughters, but that she did have a very affectionate and supportive father, and that made all the difference. She had polio when she was 6, which caused disformity in her right leg. It was kind of thin and shriveled. And because of that, she would never show her legs later on. She always wore long skirts or pants. She's famous for those fantastic Mexican traditional dresses. But to help her regain strength after that, her father encouraged her to go out and be really active, to swim and play sports and do a lot of things that at that time were reserved more for boys. And I think that really developed her independent, really tenacious style. Having this, as a young child, being encouraged by her father to go do things that kind of broke the rules. And remember, in the early 1900s, those societal norms were a lot more restrictive than they are now, which is definitely something to point out to the kids. So she also got into a very prestigious school in Mexico City and was able to go to school and study medicine, but then was in a bus accident. Her bus that she was riding on hit a trolley and was in a really bad accident. The list of things that she broke in that accident is long. And so she spent 3 months in a full body cast in bed, had to have over 35 surgeries to repair. And in that time, she decided to leave her study of medicine and become an artist as she painted in bed. Actually, her dad was the one who gave her his oil paints to start painting with. I love this portrait of her. This shows her with a picture of her surgeon. This is her doctor right there. And you can see, here she is, she's in her wheelchair, and on her palette is her heart, and she's painting with her heart. She's painting her love for her surgeon. I just want you to kind of, go ahead and let the kids tell you what they think. One thing that's interesting about Frida Kahlo is she has that traditional Mexican Spanish, more realistic kind of gory folk art feel to her art, and that'll definitely get the kids' attention. I tried to keep it pretty mild in the samples that I chose to have printed up so that we didn't have, too much craziness. But her heart is definitely there in many of her pictures. So talk to the kids about, here's Frida. She didn't consider herself beautiful. And it's mentioned in several places that she wasn't considered beautiful, and yet she loved herself. She loved her face and painted herself. Here's one showing herself tied to her past and her present in her clothes. Talk to the kids and see what they think. What do you think about this? Her heart's missing. Her heart's down here in this corner. What do you think about the symbolism in here? Go ahead and let them explore it. There are no right answers. And then just really quickly, I'll run through a couple of the others. Here she is with her sister, and you can see just that familial love. But again, definitely that Spanish influence there. Frida Kahlo was put in with the surrealists by the critics, but she rejected that. She said she wasn't a folk artist. She wasn't a surrealist. She painted what she really believed she saw. And if you think about the realists, or the surrealists, the most famous surrealist painting is probably that Salvador Dali with the clocks dripping down the, in the desert. And most of the kids will have probably seen that. You can remind them of that. It would have been good to print out something. Sorry. But, the surrealists, their whole movement was to take something that's crazy, like a dream, something that's surreal, and put it into, a very realistic, detailed setting, paint it with realistic, realistic style, and kind of give you that dreamlike, crazy feeling. The 20s were a fantastic time for art. Art was really changing and picking up steam and moving forward. Last year we talked about Cezanne and how he kind of moved us into that modern art, and it just was like full steam ahead in the 20s. It was a crazy decade, and I love that. Here's another one. This is called Roots. So I talk about with the kids, what could that mean? What do you think? These roots are coming out of her chest. Could that have ties to family, to where she's from? What do you see there? Look at the landscape. It's really barren and different. Take some time just to look over it with them. We'll want time for the self-portraits, so of course you don't want to, I don't know, I get talking to them and spend too long often. But, sorry. Yay, super professional. But you'll want to take the time to look at her work. It's really amazing. She was an amazing artist with a very unique style, and I love that. She married Diego Rivera, who was a much more celebrated Mexican painter, but not as common in the United States. She's definitely, lastingly, the bigger artist between the two. But they had this crazy, tempestuous relationship. They were always like fighting and moving out and then living next door and then remarrying and back together. And they, I don't know, were passionate people. They made it work. She definitely, I'm sure if you look around at her biography a little bit more, you'll find that she was a colorful character. She was very passionate and sensual. She had a lot of affairs over their time with men and women, which is probably not really grade school appropriate. So we won't mention that in the classroom, but it's definitely interesting. You're kind of getting, I don't know if it gives you a sense of just this like larger than life personality. I think it would have been amazing to meet her, amazing to see a person so big. I'm just such a big personality. And then she died on July 13th, 1954. She was only 47. But if you think about all of the pain and all of the physical ailments that she had to deal with throughout her life, it's, that seems like a full life. And The coroner listed her death as an embolism, but it's actually widely believed that she intentionally overdosed on drugs. She wrote in her journal the day before that she would soon be leaving the world and she hoped to never come back. And I think I don't know. I think these really amazing artists. It's sad, of course. We're kind of, I don't know. I feel like I'm just kind of a normal person. I don't really, my highs aren't really that high and my lows aren't really that low. But it just seems like they deal with, big demons, big emotions. It probably takes a lot of emotion to create really amazing art like that. And I'm sure her life was, man, difficult, really difficult. But an amazing artist. So let's talk really quick. I'm going to run you through a self-portrait really quick. We want to give the kids some tips to help them create a more realistic portrait, but at the same time, I really feel strongly that you shouldn't box them in too much. Don't force them to conform to what I see for this lesson or you see for this lesson. Let them experience for themselves. I'm all over that. I love, my kids are the first to tell me no, Mom, you don't know. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it, which is great. So a few things that I just like to show them when we do a portrait. If you just hold your hand up to your face, you'll see that your hand is about the size of your face. And you can use that thumb to pinky for your cheekbones and then middle finger to the base of your palm to go ahead and just get the basic measurements for your face. Let's see if I can do this backwards. So I'm just going to put a little mark at the base of my hand and then up here at the top of my middle finger. And then I'm going to spread my fingers out again to kind of get a little bit of sense of where my cheekbones are going to be at the widest point. So this will give me, and just run through this with the kids, you can get kind of a general sense. Now really lightly, I'm just going to draw in, and you want to emphasize really lightly because you're going to want to erase that. You don't want that in your final picture. I'm just going to take a cross right here. Well, actually, first we want to, oh my goodness, just kind of encourage them to look in the mirror a lot, to look at their face shape and say, like here I notice my hairline kind of comes in right here. So it's a little bit in on my face and then it comes back out on my cheekbone. Then I'm going to come in and my jaw kind of has a little angle right here going down to the chin. So I'm going to put that in. And see how I'm just lightly sketching. To start out with, I'm just putting in light sketches. I call these tickle sketches with the little kids. I say we're just tickling the paper. We're doing it lightly. And then we're going to go in on the other side and down, around. And by doing it lightly like this and not getting too stressed out about trying to, slowly draw an oval, this way you can get your shape a little more accurate and rounded, and then you'll want to go back in, and I still use a sketch movement. I still use my tickle lines or my tickle strokes, but you can come back around and kind of fill this in. And now now that I have I hope this is dark enough that you guys can see it. Sorry if not. Now that I have this line kind of in, I'm going to lightly put a line down the middle to divide it in half and then in half again. Now, a lot of times when I'm working with kids, I'll say, where do you think the eyes should go? Should the eyes go up here? And, and then we'll just joke and say, a lot of kids put their eyes at the top of the head, but are my eyes up here? No, I've got to have room for my brain. So I'm going to put my eyes just right above that middle line, kind of in the middle here. And we can talk about how maybe we make it a football shape, or I kind of notice that mine go, down right here. And you definitely don't want to take a lot of time, maybe even only do half so that they have plenty of time, but run them through, I have eyebrows and I'm looking in the mirror and my eyebrows are kind of pointy. They come up right here. and then they come back and they're thicker right here. And I'm just, to start out with, I'm just gonna put everything in, you know, lightly so that I can go back in. We're gonna do this with watercolor, so I would definitely encourage the kids to draw lightly, and then they can come back in with the watercolor and it'll have a much softer effect overall. Their papers are gonna be a lot bigger than this. I forgot to grab one. So they have a lot of room. And one thing I want you to talk about with them is go ahead and take that room and use it to put in some of the interesting aspects. What's important to you? What do you want to convey with this picture? Do you want to tell the world a little bit about what you like and don't like, or what you like to do? You know, include objects in there. Include a soccer ball if that's what you're passionate about, is soccer. But try and do it in a different way. Don't just put a soccer ball like a sun up in the sky, unless that's, or put a soccer ball like a sun up in the sky, whatever works. But, point out to them how Frida Kahlo made it interesting. She did it in an unusual way. And then just go ahead and fill in. I know we kind of talked about an easy way to do this is to go down and make, for your nose, you just make a shallow U. And then, encourage them to look in the mirror. You've got that shallow U right here. And then you're going to make the nostrils come out. And just, it's okay to say, noses are kind of ugly. When we draw noses, they look kind of weird. But if you don't give them a nose, they're going to look really weird. Everybody has to have a nose, right? And just say, it's okay. Lots of artists get frustrated with noses. I get frustrated with noses all the time. And then you can put in, one side. I tend to go for one side because I like to keep it minimalist, because I do struggle with noses. They're not so fun. And we don't really want to take too much time. I mean, if they want to shade, let them go ahead and shade. But, with the watercolor, you don't want to get too worked up about it. Let's just keep it loose. Keep it flowing free. So you're going to put in your eyes and your nose, and then underneath your nose, you've got that little area right here. And then you can talk to them about, like, their lips, and they'll come down and mention to him the middle's going to be on that midline. You can decide with your lips, how do you want this? Do you want this to be a serious portrait? Are the lips closed? Is the mouth kind of relaxed? Or are you smiling? Yay! It's tricky. And if they do want to make a smiling mouth, I would just tell them that, here you've got your lips, and you kind of stretch out that bottom lip. It's going to be a little bit bigger on the bottom than it is on the sides, because that's how it is when we smile. But then also just tell them, you don't want to make all your teeth. Even if you have a big toothy grin, when we put in all our teeth, it looks a little crazy. So here I'm just putting in this this line here, and maybe I'll just give a little bit of definition. Do you see how that is? But not much, because if you make each square for your tooth, you're going to look kind of crazy. That'll be what people focus on. So we just want to blend and give an overall feel. Okay, so we'll do our portraits, sketch them in like this, and then take the watercolors and go for it with the watercolor. Remind them that artists always work from the back to the front. We always start in the background. If they want a watercolor wash across the background, go ahead and put that in, and then start putting in their details. And then just a few words. We have some watercolors left over from last year. Go ahead and just use those up. And when they get down to hardly anything, please throw them away. Don't put them back in the bin. Let's just, move it out. And then there are 2 boxes on the bottom of the cart. If you do start to run low, there are 2 boxes of watercolors, so you can break into those at any time. Email me, text me if you have any questions, or call, of course. Let me know what I can do to help you. I appreciate you guys so much. I love doing this program. You're going to love doing it too. It's really fun. It's really fun to be in there with the class. and to kind of get to see their dynamics, get to know your kids' friends' personalities a little bit, and they always love you because they know you're coming in to do something fun with them. So have a great time, have a happy October, and talk to you later.